Jackie.
Jai.
Sitaram, everyone.
Sitaram.
So I've been asked to do the synopsis of the entire theme for this year, for 2017, Be the Change. And it was quite coincidental that this theme was chosen because 2016, for me especially in my professional life, has been about being the change. I changed jobs and I went into an organization and I was given the task to implement change in an area that was failing. And usually in large organizations, they'd bring in a professional from outside to observe the system and to make recommendations. And usually this person would do something that's called benchmarking. So they would look at other institutions who have the same line of business, the ones that are successful, and they'd look at them and see what is working for them. And then they'd take it and try to incorporate it into the organization. But my task was a bit different because I was not only asked to observe what was working and what was not working and to make recommendations, but I was also given the task of being the person to show the change. So I was, in other words, I was expected to be the guinea pig as well. So, usually they'd implement the changes and they would go, but I had the task of showing that what I was saying was possible, that it really would work. So I had to be the agent of change. So when I went and I started observing and the other employees realized what was happening, many of them came and they spoke with me. And there was this sense of discontent amongst the majority of them, and everybody would complain. Everybody would complain about the different things that were going wrong and the things that needed to be changed and, how unhappy they were and everything that was wrong with the current system. But the ironic thing about it is that when I started implementing the changes, these same people who were complaining about the way that things were and the things that were not working, they were the same people now who were complaining about the changes that were being implemented. So we can talk about change and we can talk about being the change, but along with being the change comes consequences with these. And we have to ask ourselves, are we ready to deal with the consequences of these changes? Now, as you can imagine, being a new person in an organization and implementing changes, I was not the favorite person. Because to them, even in the madness and the system that was not working, there was a sense of comfort. And now having to change, even if it's for the better, it's still painful. And when we look at it, the scripture that most exemplifies this is Bhagavad Gita and the episode of Mahabharata, the Mahabharata war. And we would see that Arjuna, he was on the battlefield with Lord Krishna specifically for this, because there was a system that was not working. There was an entire organization, an entire kingdom that was dissatisfied. And Arjuna, he said, I want to be the change. It can't continue like this. So he was there, but when Arjuna was faced with the consequences of this change, and he looked on the battlefield and all he could see was his friends and his relatives and those who he grew up with, and these people who were held in such high esteem, in the varying kingdoms. Arjuna, he became depressed and he became unhappy and he felt like he couldn't go on. So the change that should have taken place when he was faced with it, he was unable to deal with it. And in that Mahabharata war that was fought over 18 days, 3.94 million people fought in that war. The greatest of the soldiers of India, they fought in that war. And from that 3.94 million people, 12 people survived. So can you imagine, are we ready? Are we really ready to deal with the consequences of the change? And we would realize that change, it comes at a price, as I was saying before, and it's not always good and it's not always happy. Because we as human beings, even in the unhappiness, we find comfort in it, you know. So it's difficult. Mahatma Gandhi ji, who coined this phrase, be the change that you want to see, he lost his life fighting for this change that he wanted to see. So this is the question that we have to ask. It's good to talk about change and it's good to talk about what is necessary. But we also have to be the soldier in this fight to say, this is the way it should be and I'm not giving up, regardless. Regardless if 3.94 million soldiers are lost. Regardless if I'm spoken about in a bad way. Regardless if the consequences are not what I expect. But this change is necessary, and this change is what I am all about. So these are my few words for the message for tonight. Thank you for the opportunity, Sitara.